Gosh, music and culture.
I think it was a time of better economic times for people, and that because of the better economy, people could have more fun, could explore more possibilities, try new jobs.
I'd have to say it's the age of the computers and .coms and all these huge mega companies.
Definitely the music. It was kind of especially around here, it was like the Seattle grunge scene.
And also, for a second thing, is that the beginning of the early days of the internet really defined a lot of what was to come.
The internet. We had the internet before, but it wasn't widely available. And I remember my parents got the internet, and we had a computer at home, and there were like all these websites. I could look stuff up for my papers without having to go to the library. But the internet was like different than what it is now. It was like a screen with words on it. There weren't a lot of pictures. It's pretty exciting.
Besides the microwave, which had been around for a long time. It only happened in the late 90s, but the internet really changed things. It was email that was my first foray into the internet, of being able to trade emails with colleagues and with friends and communicate pretty darn quickly with them. That was pretty cool.
Oh, I'd have to say it was Facebook and MyFace. Those are the two I really liked. Oh no, got those backwards. No, I'd have to say it probably is the cell phone that came out. Okay. That was in the late 90s. That made a big, and the personal computer, making that available to everybody so you can take the laptops different places. Okay. But not the Yugo, because that didn't work at all. Go ahead.
I was definitely like a rock grunge girl. I listened to, my favorite was Pearl Jam. I planned to marry Eddie Vedder, that was my plan, it didn't work out. But I loved him, all my heart. And I loved like Alice in Chains and all of these like obscure 90s bands. I was definitely a grunge girl. I was not into boy bands, but that was the music that I listened to. I liked the Beastie Boys a lot, the Pixies.
I hate to say it, I really didn't listen to a lot of pop music. I was listening to classical music. The most memorable music, though, the stuff that really comes to mind, is the boy bands and the bubblegum pop of NSYNC, Britney Spears, and a lot of that. But actually, the most important music was, now that I think of it, their grunge music, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, etc., etc.
You can't touch this.
The 80s was a time that had, during the Reagan Revolution, was a time of the growth of conservatism, both economically and socially. It was a time of turning away from the party atmosphere of the 70s and the political damage of Watergate and the Carter era. And so the 80s was very conservative. The 90s, because the economy was doing better, because there was a pendulum swing from the Reagan Revolution with the election of Clinton, I think it was a swing back towards the middle or to the left, both socially and politically.
The 90s was a lot more down to earth in terms of the way that people, at least from what I remember, the 80s and the early 90s was more bubblegum, like pop and excess. The 90s seemed a little bit quieter. But it was strange because the 90s was like, economically, there was a big technology boom, and so people had money and things, but it was the 80s during the recession when people were more flamboyant, like their dress and style, which I don't know if that's a normal thing during the recession. Seems like it now, but that seems like that was a big contrast. Technology was big in the 90s.
I think there was a swing back in the 90s towards service and wanting to make a difference versus just trying to make it on your own on that.
That was a very strange time. I remember being at work and watching it on television and seeing the bombs hitting and the bombs that Iraq was shooting at Israel, at Jerusalem, and watching those, and that was very scary. It was interesting because there were lots of positive reasons to go into Kuwait, and it was the most interesting thing is once the military went into Kuwait and won the Gulf War, they pulled out, and they got out of that country and did not opt for a long-term occupation, which eventually happened later on with the Iraqi War.
I thought that was a really tense time, and I think that the people who went over there and served were not given the honor and gratitude that they deserved. And I'm thinking there are probably some ways we could have avoided that, but it didn't come about. So
that was earlier on in the 90s, and I was young, but one of my cousins was in the military. He was in Kuwait, and then the other cousin, his brother, also got taken there. They were both high up in the Air Force and the Army. So I just remember being personally involved, being worried about them and what they were going through. I don't think I had an opinion about it because I didn't really understand everything that was going on, but I remember being personally invested in the actual soldiers that were there.